Assalamu alaikum. I hope everyone is doing well. It's been a minute since I've made a video. I made a part one to this OCD series, and then I went on a hiatus and never made part two. Um, I just had a lot of things going on in my life. I wanted to just take a step back from all of the creative stuff I was doing just to kind of do like a mental reset, reset my intentions, come back renewed, stronger, and now here I am. So this new OCD series is um, happening because in my hiatus, I basically wrote an entire script for like this multi-part series that I was going to record on YouTube Shorts and Instagram Reels and TikTok. But then as I started creating it, I realized like I'm kind of forcing it. Like I'm trying too hard to be cinematic and do all these cool fancy edits when in reality like I just want to get these ideas out there. So I kind of just I showed it to a friend. He gave me feedback. He was like, "Honestly, man, like I feel like it's much better if you just talk straight to the camera. Like this can work, but it also feels kind of like scripted and forced. And if you want to build a genuine connection with the people that you're speaking to, like it's better to just talk, especially if the content speaks for itself." So that's kind of what I'm doing here. And so this is a new series that's going to be multi parts based on the script that I wrote, but that's more just talking straight to the core of the ideas. I'm inshallah going to put this on Apple Podcasts and Spotify as well if you want to follow along there, if you're just driving to work or whatever. Um, and in this particular video, I wanted to really deep dive into a particular question. And appreciating this question, I think, will help us understand the value of learning about OCD and following along in this series, even if you don't have OCD or you don't have anyone in your family experiencing OCD. So, why does OCD matter? And more particularly, the question that I'm asking in this video is, why did God give me OCD? But first, in order to tackle that question, let's tackle a sub question first, which is, why does OCD matter? So, I think that in my understanding of OCD, I read two books, right? One is Overcoming Unwanted Intrusive Thoughts, and one is Brain Lock. Overcoming Unwanted Intrusive Thoughts focused specifically on the experience of having an intrusive thought. So it's an unwanted thought that interrupts your normal pattern and flow of thoughts that you really don't like. And typically it's like a what if scenario. It's catastrophizing a small data point and building a catastrophe out of it, taking the worst case scenario and building that. So something small happens at work, and now you get this intrusive thought that, oh my God, what if I'm laid off? And now the rest of your day is kind of spent in this obsession of, oh my God, what if I'm laid off? And this has become a compulsive thought for you, and you're going back and forth. And now you're forced into this chair of being this lawyer to advocate for yourself against the literal demons in your own mind that are just presenting you this terrible scenario after terrible scenario, and you can't tolerate the uncertainty, you can't tolerate the anxiety, and you just feel compelled to respond. And so that's the experience of someone who has unwanted intrusive thoughts, right? But then the other book, OCD, it was very interesting because it's solutions that it presents in the book, the book Brain Lock. Its solutions were very much about cognitive behavioral framings, and it focused on the thought itself as a way to help you control your obsession. You have to reframe your experience of the thought itself. So it was very much focused on the initial thought. And that got me thinking. And if you're a clinical psychologist, I'd love for you to correct me if I'm wrong about this. But in my understanding, after reading these two books, the way I see it is intrusive thoughts are like a spectrum, and everyone experiences unwanted intrusive thoughts. Some people are somewhere in the middle of that spectrum where they have what you would call rumination or compulsive thinking. And it's not like a particular thought, they just have a general pattern of overactive thinking and a sticky mind where thoughts generally take very long to pass through your mind, and you don't have this kind of fluid passage of thoughts. Um, and you tend to catastrophize, and maybe there's like some malignant shame within yourself. I love that term, malignant shame. But Maybe we'll have a separate video on that one day, inshallah. But basically, this idea that there's a lot of internalized blame upon yourself and guilt. And it's different than guilt, right? Guilt is like for a particular action that you did, but it's not anything particular that you did. It's just your essence. You're just shameful about existing. You're shameful of being you. You're shameful of walking outside and walking amongst people and having basic everyday comforts and having an existence and taking up space on this earth. You're just shameful for you, right? All of this amalgamation of things, I think, creates the conditions upon which someone tends to experience a lot of compulsive thinking. Like they just can't shut their mind off, and their mind is constantly ruminating and taking these small external stimuli, these small data points, building worst case scenarios out of them, or, creating things that of like creating questions of like, does this mean I'm a bad person? And constantly questioning and doubting your character, questioning and doubting um, um, your morality, um, your deepest values and identities, right? So that's compulsive thinking. But then there's an extreme manifestation, right? So that was like in the middle. There's an extreme manifestation of that compulsive thinking, which is obsessive compulsive disorder, which is literally like you get an unwanted intrusive thought. Because initially, what is the obsession? If we say obsessive compulsive disorder, we take the O, the obsession. What is that? It's a thought, ultimately, right? It's a thought that is on the extreme of the spectrum of unwanted intrusive thoughts. It's no longer a general compulsive thinking, but it's a particular thought which has gotten stuck, which is an insane amount of intensity. Like the subjective experience of when you have that thought is like a crippling type of anxiety and in a deep intolerance to that anxiety where you feel compelled to act out your compulsion, whatever that is, right? If in the religious context, it's repeating your wudu, repeating your salah, or if it's, checking the light switch, checking if the stove is off, um, if it's, relationship OCD, constantly questioning your partner, does she love me? Does she love me? When, again, it's not an abusive relationship by any means. It's a loving, healthy relationship, but you just can't stop that constant questioning and obsession of, is she secretly in love with someone else? Does she actually love me? Right? So these manifestations of unwanted intrusive thoughts that get stuck are essentially what obsessions are. They are the people that experience compulsive thinking. They're similar to them in the sense that it started as an unwanted intrusive thought. But I would argue the people that are in the middle, they kind of cycle through a series of all sorts of thoughts, and it happens for a short period of time, and then they get through it. And it's not like this thought is stuck, and it's not like the intensity is really all that high. Maybe it's like a 15-minute period where you kind of go down this Google rabbit hole of, oh my God, do I have this medical condition? And then you kind of get over it. But a person with OCD is like, there's this continuous questioning of, oh my God, do I have cancer? Do I have cancer? And you can't shut off the obsession. And you've developed a whole series of compulsions related to this thought that has completely overtaken you. I hope that makes sense. So now that we got that idea down, the reason why I wanted to answer the question, why does OCD matter to you, is to essentially say that even if you don't experience the most extreme manifestation of unwanted intrusive thoughts, which is literally obsessive compulsive disorder, you still are likely, possibly, experiencing somewhere in the middle a type of like compulsive thinking and rumination that is negatively affecting your life. It's not completely taken over your life the same way certain people with particular obsessions in obsessive compulsive disorder, their obsessions have literally overtaken their entire life. They literally cannot like sleep properly. They can't eat properly. This obsession is completely eaten away at them, right? And we'll get into in this series, like there's nuance here, right? It's not exactly the thought itself. It's the anxiety that the thought creates. And there's all sorts of reasons for that. And, we'll get into that. But if you just stay with me for a second, right? It is the thought itself ultimately that is the source of the distress, right? Or at least is what initiated the distress. And I'd argue that if you are able to understand the way and the path to healing for people that have OCD, that is going to significantly help you in your regular everyday rumination and compulsive thinking. Because ultimately, OCD is the most extreme manifestation of that compulsive thinking and that intrusive thought that has gotten stuck and now is just completely taken over your entire psyche to become an obsession, which then, to alleviate that obsession, you want to do all these compulsions, obsessive compulsive disorder, right? And so when we can unpack what's happening with the obsession, then all of the less extreme forms of just compulsive thinking and rumination, we're able to better appreciate and navigate, and we're able to actually develop a type of healing even for those experiences, because ultimately there's a whole cognitive behavioral framework behind how to improve your relationship with these thoughts by identifying what these thoughts are, the nature of these thoughts, what's happening inside you when you're experiencing these thoughts, reframing your experience of these thoughts, and all of these things, which is going to help you kind of heal and develop a better relationship with the constant monologue that's happening in your mind, to where over time you're actually able to lessen that rumination, right? And so now let's get into the question, why did God give me OCD? It's very hard to come up with reasons for why God would have given you a condition like this, because it's such a hellish condition to live through and experience. The idea of feeling like an imposter in your own mind, of not trusting your own thoughts, of feeling like you're following these signals that your mind is telling you, but these are constantly false signals, and you don't know what to trust anymore, and you just feel emotionally exhausted, and nobody else around you is going to understand, right? Because these are things happening in your own mind. It's literally all in your head. Right? So it's like it gives credence to this idea that, look, just get over it, right? It's all in your head. But no, the people don't understand the subjective experience of the person that's going through these thoughts. It's not that easy. In fact, just the advice, it's all in your head, just get over it, just brute force your way through, is actually counterproductive to the type of attitude you want to be developing to the thoughts, because that's an attitude of suppression rather than acceptance, and that's going to make the thoughts worse. So the experience of OCD is such a difficult thing to deal with internally and even externally. Good com- there's not good conversation around the idea, and it's really insulting, to like have people like, they're like, their pen is in the wrong place. Instead of having it here, they want it here. And they're like, my OCD is acting up. It's like, bro, shut up. Like, that's not OCD, bro. Like, that's not OCD. Someone who's actually experienced it is just like, bro, you should thank God you don't actually have OCD. But anyways, let's get back to the question, right? Why did God give me OCD? I just wanted to give you a bit of an appreciation there of like why it can feel so bad for the person, right? There's like low education around the topic. It's subjectively a terrible thing to go through. You feel like you can't trust your own mind. You don't even know what's happening to you. Like, am I possessed? What's going on? I just cannot survive and navigate everyday existence because my mind just won't shut off. And every time I try to investigate what's happening, it just makes it worse. So, like, what can I even do? You know? But why would God put me through such a thing? I think when you get on your path to healing, this is when you're able to really appreciate why. Because when you can, when you understand the when you understand how to heal through the most extreme forms of unwanted intrusive thought, that gives you a skill set to be able to differentiate between thoughts that are worth investigating and thoughts that are not worth investigating. You're able to create a separation between yourself and your mind. And that skill alone, that kind of mindful awareness of your own thoughts, is so valuable. And then not only that skill, but then going further into studying the nature of thoughts, how they influence your psyche, how they influence your experience of life, what's happening inside you, and how to tell based on your anxiety whether you should follow pursuit of a certain thought or not. Knowing and anticipating how certain thoughts are going to make you feel and whether or not they're going to be productive for you to even pursue. All of these skill sets are so valuable. And they take you from here to the most extreme versions of intrusive thoughts and obsessions to the potential to come all the way over here to the other side, where you're not stuck in this middle ground where it's like sucky, but you don't know what to do about it. And so you just embrace the suck. This is just me. I'm just I have an overactive mind and I'm an overthinker, and it sucks. And I have a very negative and poor experience of my own mind, but I don't really know what to do about it. I don't even have a language to discuss this thing. You were put in a nightmare. You were put in the most extreme version, and that's forced you to wake up. Versus some people are walking around asleep, but it's not that bad. So they don't wake up. They're not forced to wake up, but you are forced to see the reality, to learn about how to heal your own mind. And the knowledge that you developed within that is going to help you go from this extreme version of unwanted intrusive thoughts to all the way on the other side of someone who's genuinely able to experience the joy of being free from the constant internal monologue in their mind and just being able to enjoy and exist in the beauty of the present moment. And although those experiences in your journey of healing may be short lived, because again, it's not like OCD is an on or off switch. There will be moments of relapse, there will be difficulty, frustration. But again, you're developing the skills that give you the potential and the capacity to get all the way on the other side. And by the way, as an aside, this also is a similar logic for addiction, right? Like, why would God, for example, give someone a pornography addiction? Why would God give someone a drug addiction, right? One of the reasons that you can rationalize to help you appreciate, you know, after your journey, how can I reframe this narrative? One of the ways to reframe is to tell yourself, I've experienced the most extreme version of a lust addiction, for example, in the case of pornography. And so for me, to be in that nightmare and forced to wake up and see the reality of how bad this is and how to actually heal from it, and to be forced to go through that hard, grueling journey of self control and of appreciation of love and beauty rather than just lust, and to be able to unlock that childlike curiosity within myself, to where it's not like every time I get bored, I'm immediately compulsively going to this engagement with my lust and fantasy. But no, I'm here in the real world, and my curiosity is awakening once again, and I feel like a child again. I feel like in touch with the deepest parts of myself, in touch with my own emotions. I no longer feel numb. And and the beauty of tasting that, even for a small moment, is so worth it. And you'll realize in that moment, like, I'm so actually grateful that I was put in that nightmare and forced to wake up, rather than someone who is stuck in this middle ground of, they have this passive relationship with this addiction, and they come in and out, in and out, in and out, but they're never able to experience the other side of what you've been able to experience, because you've been in the nightmare, but they're passively just asleep in a bad dream. And they'll never know what reality truly tastes like. They'll never be able to wake up, but you've been able to wake up. And for that, my friend, you should be happy. You should feel honored. You should feel grateful for your journey, and own it, and understand that there was a reason and there was a wisdom, and perhaps this was one of them. But of course, this is a reframing that we can do after our journey ends. But we still need to go on the journey of healing, right? And inshallah, this video series, again, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a therapist, I'm not here to tell you exactly this is the model. I'm just here. I've read certain books on the topic, I've experienced certain things related to OCD, I've seen it within my family, and I want to share that journey with you as a description, but not as a prescription. I will not tell you specifically, do this, 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 but I will describe to you what I've read based on these books, and everything that I talk about, I will tell you the source of where I got it from. So, inshallah, I will try to be as intellectually honest about this as possible. But at the same time, I do want to share insights. I do want to help other people, and solidify what I learned as well by articulating it on this podcast. And so if that's something you're interested in following along with, then inshallah, I'd love for you to continue watching this, to stay tuned for part 2. Inshallah, I'm going to post part 2 ASAP, maybe next week, and just try to make this a consistent weekly thing and not fall off the ladder. And yeah, hopefully this video was really beneficial to all of you. Um, um, May God bless all of you and take care. Till next time. Assalamu alaikum. May peace be upon you all.